This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Resolved. This House believes that the purpose of population census in Uganda has not been fulfilled. I'm Willy Wambanku Maloto from the negator's side, and I'm here to ask a few questions. Honorable, how many people were counted according to your statistics?
All we gave you was some were not counted.
How many people were not counted?
We gave you an estimate of 1.5 according to you, boss.
What is your source of information once again?
We told you that you're using U-Boss. We're using a study from the Makerere Institute of Statistics. We told that you're using
Dear
Daily
August
Monitor and
House,
New Vision.
given the fact that they have given us that it is UBOS that provided them with the information of the people who were counted and those that were not counted, it means that they collected the required statistics in that they determined the people who were counted and they determined even those that were not counted. This justifies that UBOS, which is in charge of collection of data, collected all data. Why do they have the people who were counted and those that were not counted? Another question, Honorable. How many decisions has government made over the past years?
Well, it depends.
Okay. Does government put up policies of development according to statistics from census?
A few.
Okay. Has your first speaker given us any figures about the current population?
Did you hear him say
Okay. Does census justify implementation of policies? Okay. Is UBOS in charge of collection of data about population census?
I mean, it is Uganda and it is one that counts and everything and
Okay.
everything it does.
Okay. Have you provided us with accurate data about the current population? I repeat, has your side provided us with accurate data about population, about the number of people who were counted, those that were not counted? Has it provided?
We're not the ones that counted, so we are relying on you, boss.
Okay. This justifies that if you have provided us with that data, if you have given us that information that is accurate, and you have given us that about 2% of the people were not enumerated, it means that UBOS has provided you with the accurate data that you are relying on to determine whether the population was not, the population will be planned for or not planned for. And what are we looking at here, August House? We are looking at the purpose of population census. According to UBOS, the purpose of population census is to generate a benchmark data for planning. And UBOS is not in charge of planning. It is the National Planning Agency. So it is not UBOS that is in charge of planning. They have spoken about corruption. We are not minding about whether Ugandans are corrupt or not. Have we provided you with the data for planning? That's all. If UBOS is in charge of enumerating the people, generating this statistics and then providing it to the other agencies for implementation, we are done with our purpose. The purpose of population census has been achieved. And a reminder to all of you here is that population census and UBOS are not about implementation, but collection of statistical data that will be used as a benchmark for planning. Given the fact that we have industrial parks in Uganda, that they are uplifting certain areas like municipalities and towns to cities, meaning we are gaining something from our population census. Plans have been put in place, and those plans will be implemented, or it's up to the implementers to implement them. It's not up to UBOS. The purpose of population census is to generate the benchmark data for planning. It's not about implementation. Then there are youth livelihood programs that have been put in place. There are other programs that have been put in place to eradicate poverty, to eradicate unemployment among youths. All that has been basing on the statistical data that has been collected. We have collected data that there are this number of youths, there are this number of people. So that's what we base on to plan. I thank you all for listening.
The judges, the two antagonistic sides, and the audience at large. Good afternoon. Dear fourth speaker, I request answers of yes or no. Do you believe that the population census has a purpose?
Yes.
Do you consent that achieving the purpose relies on the data collected?
Yes.
Do you believe that the purpose can be achieved with inaccurate data?
Pardon?
Do you believe that the purpose can be achieved with inaccurate data?
No.
Okay, you say no. Fine. Do you consider that population census was carried?
Yes.
Do you agree that we are debating it is bad?
Pardon?
Do you think we are debating that it is bad?
I've not spoken about that.
Okay, I'll take that as the I want. Do you believe that adequate national development has been achieved?
Pardon?
Do you believe that do you believe that adequate national development has been achieved?
About national development,
Okay, I'll
it
take that
depends
as
on
a yes. I
implementation of
request it for yes
policies.
or no.
Okay.
Do you consider that the population census is carried out with the role of providing a benchmark?
Pardon?
Do you believe that the only role of the population census is providing a benchmark?
Benchmark data for planning.
Okay, so that's a yes, all right. Do you consent that it is not reliable?
Pardon?
Do you consent that if it is not reliable, it can't be relied upon?
But you've been relying on it.
Sorry?
You've been relying on it all along.
Okay, so that's a yes, right?
Okay.
Are you satisfied that Uganda is third world?
Pardon?
Are you satisfied that Uganda is third world?
It hurts me deep within, but I must
So you're
admit.
not satisfied, right?
I must admit that it is a
So
third
you're not
world country.
satisfied.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Uganda can use population data to improve?
Pardon?
Do you believe that Uganda can use population data to improve?
It is about the implementers
Yes
to
or no,
improve.
please. I don't want
Pardon?
no
Pardon?
fighting. Do you believe that Uganda can use population data to improve?
If well implemented.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
Okay.
Is it possible to improve with this data if there are lack of resources?
Pardon?
Is it possible to improve with the lack of resources?
I don't think.
Welcome, yes.
Okay.
Now, dear ladies and gentlemen, one thing we want to make clear, they are coming and they are saying that Chibos is the one mandated with implementation. But one thing we are debating the purpose of the population census. Now, the ones who come and they told us that the purpose of population census is providing a data benchmark for proper planning, right? That means that also the population census has a role in proper planning. Or they are saying that Chibos does not have a role in the implementation. But we are debating the purpose of the population census, not Chibos. That means the population census still has an impact of the national planning. Because if inaccurate data is good, how is proper planning going to take place? I asked him if he believes that the population census has a purpose. Yes. But then I asked him later on, do you believe that this purpose can be achieved with inaccurate data? We came here and proved to you that indeed inaccurate data was provided. We showed you how the enumerators were not facilitated. We showed you that enumerators came out and they say that they were not provided with data. That means we got inaccurate data as the people were missed. So now when they come and they tell us that adequate planning can be done and development achieved, yet he also agrees that this purpose can be achieved in accurate data, that means he's negating himself. When I asked him that, does he believe that this purpose can be achieved in accurate data, he says no. All they have come and they told us that is reliable, but we told that the data is inaccurate, that they have not disagreed with us that the data is inaccurate. All they are saying credibility, but they have not disagreed that the data is inaccurate. That means they accept that the data is inaccurate. That means proper development cannot be carried out. When I asked him that, he told me that he's not satisfied that Uganda is third world. He told me that he believes that Uganda can use population data to improve. And when I asked him that, is it possible with a lack of resources, he told me no. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that means that he consents. I raise my case.
I'll begin by commenting the fact that you people robbed us of a lot of content and analysis of the resolution. If the resolution says this House believes that the purpose of a population census in Uganda has not been fulfilled, first of all, Team Affirmative, I would expect you to dissect the census exercise itself. Look into some of the questions asked in the census and their efficacy in collecting credible information. If you come in my house and then the only question you ask me with regards to economics is, do you have a TV? You've not asked whether I have a job. You've not asked whether I go to school. You've not asked whether I ate yesterday night. And then you use that thing that I have a TV to extrapolate and say, he must be a rich man. Are you seeing? You will be targeting the efficacy of population data. Next up, after dissecting questions asked in the census, show us that, hey, you're saying this data is credible. Show us some government plans that have been made that contradict the actual thing the citizens might need. Look into the term of subsidies. Look into something like subsidies versus reduction of taxes. The government, season in, season out, says our farmers are struggling, let's subsidize. Our farmers are struggling, let's subsidize. Could you tell us that perhaps it's because they collect some data during the census and believe that giving these people money or reducing taxes on them is going to help better their economic situation? Then afterwards you say, but that situation has not improved, and as a result, the data is not credible.
This was the same resolution that was requiring Team Negative to argue in the affirmative of the same or in the negative to say that, you know what, at the end of the day, we have been able to establish or we have been able to fulfill the purpose of population census. Now, the resolution entirely was not looking at what are the causes of the failures. No. The resolution just wanted what are the indicators of it being successful, what are the indicators of it being unsuccessful. Are we together? Team Affirmative came up and they kept on telling you that, you know what, you cannot have planning, you cannot have planning, you cannot have planning with data that is not credible. But however, personally what I picked from Team Negative comes up and tells you, no, the issue of implementation, the issue of planning at the end of the day is not bestowed on the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. For them, what they are looking at, no, at the end of the day, if we have statistics that have been placed, if we have data that has been presented at the end of the day, irrespective of its being credible or not, that one will never matter. However, that one still does not kill the fact that they have been able to argue that if this data is not credible, you're not going to fulfill the purpose of its planning. Now, this is where I base my judgment from. Personally, I'll give it to Team Negative. Why? Team Negative comes up and then for them they tell you that, you know what? We are looking at the indicators. At the end of the day, we have been seeing an implementation. What I picked up from them, they looked at the issue that the government has been able to plan for its people basing on the statistics that have been gotten at the end of the day. Okay? So what I just expected from you, tell them that no, at the end of the day, whatever you are talking about, the PDM, the rectification, we have not been able to achieve the objective we want to achieve because of the lack of credibility.
This was a wonderful debate, very engaging. It was very interesting. Now, we have a resolution that is looking at, was the purpose of the population census met or it wasn't? Now, I love the fact that both of you come up and start by pointing to us what the purpose of population census is every single year. After 10 years. So you both tell us, you use different English words, but it all draws back to facilitate data for planning. The mere fact that, do you know why usually when they're carrying out the population census, Ugandans actually feel like maybe they are asking irrelevant questions because they're going to ask you, how many children do you have? Why don't you just count the number of children in the house? However, that goes back to what? Maybe what is the mortality rate of people in the country? So mere having of that 1.4 does not show that, you know what, this number of people earn less than $1 a day. So at the end of the day, that information may not be able to be used for better planning, which is the purpose of the population census. The team that won this debate is the team that was able to show that at the end of the day, the population census is actually doing what? Fulfilling its purpose, or it is not fulfilling its purpose sufficiently. Mia coming up and telling us that the 1.4 exists and how do we know it just because it's from UBOS does not satisfy to us that the purposes of the population census were met. Let me backtrack you a little bit. What is the purpose of the population census? To facilitate data for better planning. Now, first speaker, your speech was great. However, now this is where I fault you. First speaker negative. You come up and admit on that podium that the data is insufficient and it's inadequate. Do you get that? So then, and all of you actually end up admitting it. That is why they keep on asking you. Let's say in your school they say that the students are 100, and then someone carries out a population census and they say that the students are 80. Where will the 20 eat from? You get that? So your mere admission, whereby these people keep on asking you that, yes, the purpose of the population census is what? Is to plan, not just to have data. So at the end of the day, can the purpose of planning be achieved with insufficient data as much as you have an argument of credibility? So for me, that was my decision. I gave 16 for style, 21 for content, 25 for team affirmative, and 24 for team negative on strategy, totaling up to 62 for team affirmative and 61 for team negative. It is not a unanimous decision. It's a decision of 2-1. The team affirmative takes the day.